Hello and welcome to my channel. My name is Bunny Cakes and welcome to my channel for the first time if you're new here. Today I am going to be reviewing Dead Ends, The Pursuit, Conviction, and Execution of Serial Killer Aileen Wuornos by Michael Reynolds. Let me show you the cover there on my Kindle. So obviously this is about Aileen Wuornos, and it goes pretty well, semi in depth into her crimes and some of her history and into her case and the police investigation and her life in general. Um, this book, I initially gave it, I think on Goodreads, a 4 out of 5 stars, but that was immediately after I read it. I actually think I feel more like it should have a 3 out of 5 stars, because I was thinking about some of the stuff, and I've also watched more about her. Um, I've watched some documentaries and stuff, and I'm also reading another book about that's made up of her personal letters to a friend of hers. Um, I think this could have been handled better. Um, it discusses the background of some of her victims, but only the victims that make her look worse. So it discusses the background slightly of two of her victims that were cops, but it doesn't discuss anything about her first victim, who was who was in trouble with the law on multiple occasions for sex crimes. Um, and there's some of the ways that they describe her and her girlfriend Tyria that were kind of a bit weird. Like at one point when they're talking about the APB they put out, they say that one of the women was obviously a lesbian in the physical description of her. And now I can reasonably assume that that means that she was very butch, because if you see pictures of the real Tyria Moore, she is a very masculine looking woman. Like at the time, she had a buzz cut and she was bigger and kind of built like a linebacker. Um, but I think it's a bit odd that the wording of the book described it that way, and maybe that was actually in the APB. I mean, this was a different time. It was the late 80s, early 90s. So I mean, maybe they described her as that way. I don't know. But some of it was really weird. They never talk about that. They never talk really. They only loosely talk about a rumor that Eileen had been sexually abused by her brother. They don't talk at all about the fact that she and or her mother may have been sexually abused by her grandfather. Um, and they don't talk at all about how a lot of the people from her neighborhood that knew Eileen when she was a teenager thought that she was being abused, and they don't talk all that much about how Eileen was kicked out and living in the woods in Michigan in the winter when she was 14 and 15. And now those things don't excuse her crimes, but they do give insight into how this situation may have developed and put her into the situation that she is in. Um, and They also don't discuss a whole lot about the weirdness behind how Eileen at one point completely shifts. She goes from, I did it, but it was self defense, I was raped, to, I did it just because I wanted to. I'm a killer and I want you to murder me. And well, not murder me. I want you to put me to death finally. And they don't talk about how her mental health kind of shifted as she was in prison. Another thing that was weird for me is how her initial lawyer, her public defender, he comes in when she's being interrogated and she starts confessing, and then he leaves and he goes and makes a phone call, and it doesn't say how long that he was gone, but in the context of the book it makes it seem like he wasn't in the room for a good chunk of the investigation, and to me that seems kind of like bad lawyering. Now, I'm not a lawyer, I never have been, but I do watch a lot of Legal Eagle over on over here on YouTube, and I feel like this would be one of the ones where he would be upset about that. I mean, I don't know. I'm not going to opine on somebody else's opinions, but in my opinion, it seems a bit shady, and I also think Tyria is real shady. Like, she's painted as this completely innocent victim, but her behavior is just, I don't know. Sometimes she seems like she might have been this abused lover, but in other ways, she doesn't seem like that at all. Like, and I have some experience with this. My own mother, um, tends to have terrible taste in partners, and I've seen her in these situations where she was very much the abused woman. And I know not all abused women behave the same, but for the type of abused woman that they seem to try to paint Tyria as, her after the fact behavior doesn't seem to track. Like, in one of the witnesses that they talk to, well, at least the cops go to, is a woman that Tyria and Aileen lived with for a couple of weeks. And she says that Tyria hardly ever spoke, and that Tyria hardly ever came out of the room, and that one of the few times Aileen caught this woman and Tyria speaking, Aileen lost her entire shit. Which makes sense for how volatile Aileen is. But on top of that, though, it seems like Tyria also wasn't an entirely innocent player, because like when she's having the conversation with Aileen and the police are forcing her into it. It's only been a couple of weeks since she's been with Aileen, and Aileen is confessing her love to her, and Eileen's very much she's trying to protect herself, but she's also being the white knight. And she's telling Tyria, I love you. Do what you need to do. I won't let you go down for this. I love you. I love you. I love you. And Tyria never acknowledges that. And not in the text that they give you in the book, but also it's explicitly mentioned in the book that beyond the text, everything they've edited out, Tyria never says that she loves Aileen back. And these women had been together for years. The book makes it seem like it was longer, like uh 8 or 9 years, but other things I'm seeing it was only like 3 or 4, maybe 6 at the most. Um and then also Tyria jumped into uh wanting to do the movie deal with the cops really, really quickly. Um and it just makes her seem shady. And beyond this book, I've watched some of the trial and testimony of Tyria, and she she's very disconnected and out for herself, and to an extent I understand that, but she doesn't seem like somebody who was ever really in love with Aileen like she says she was. And she doesn't seem like, if she was abused, it doesn't seem like she's had any trouble getting past it. Um, and it seems like she moved past it really, really quickly, because Aileen wasn't in jail a super long time before the trial. Um, but this book, all in all, I like it for what it was. I've read better true crime that treats the victims better and even treats the criminal better. Um, and with this book and everything, I have misgivings about the way the case was handled. I don't have any doubt that Aileen hurt these people. I just have a whole lot of doubts about the core details and the reasons why. Um, I'm hoping that the other book I'm reading about this will be better. Um, and I'm hoping I can find books that treat the case better in general, but I don't know. That happens sometimes with true crime, especially with cases like this. Uh, Aileen was a unique case because she was the first really popular female, well, the first widely known female serial killer that seemed to kill with the same reasonings and criteria that male serial killers tend to kill with. Women serial killers tend to kill people they know or people that they're in care of. So women, and they tend to kill with poison rather than guns or knives or whatever, statistically. Um, so Aileen is often referred to as the first female serial killer, even though that's not even remotely true. It's just she's the first widely known woman to kill using male standards. Um, Now, I have seen a lot of people in what I've been dealing with refer to Aileen as like a feminist Jesus type. I don't see that. I see her as a criminal, but also a victim of circumstance and a victim of poor mental health systems and all of that. Um, in some ways, I feel very sorry for Aileen because had her life been different, there's a chance that maybe she wouldn't have become a violent serial killer. Um, Maybe if she hadn't been had to have been put into a life where she fell into prostitution and drugs and violence and all of that, maybe things would have been different. I mean, we have no way of knowing. Um, and given the diagnoses that she was given, there's a very good chance that she probably still would have ended up with those diagnoses. But if they had been treated, um, things might have been prevented. If her life had been different, things might have been prevented. And that's one of the things I like about true crime is um, because I have a background education in psychology, I look at it with that frame of mind. Um, could this have been prevented with better mental health care, with better circumstances and that sort of thing? And I think that there's a good chance in this case there would be. Um, I'm very interested in Aileen Wuornos as a serial killer because she doesn't fit the mold that was preset by all of the criteria people were looking at before. Um, I also think that might have been why she got away with it for as long as she did, because in several different things that I've looked at, that's one of the things that they said from the beginning. A couple of the police officers had mentioned that they didn't think that these people would have just stopped for anyone. And then other police officers said, no, it has to be a guy because this is the way men kill. This isn't the way women kill. Um, and so I kind of wonder with that too, if lives could have been saved if they weren't trying to, if they hadn't used tunnel vision because things didn't match what always happens. Um, I also have serious questions about the backgrounds of especially the first man she killed. And um, pretty much the only one who would have ever been able to tell us what really happened was Aileen, and she couldn't keep her story straight, and now she's gone from this world too, so we'll never know without time travel. But this was a really interesting book. I wish it had been um, done better, so I am going to revert my rating to a 3 out of 4 stars because I think that it could have gone more in depth in some places, and I think some parts of it were not handled as well as they could have been. But it's it has a lot of good facts in it, so it's worth the read. It's just um, I wish some things hadn't been so glossed over. Um, but that is all I have for today, so thank you for watching, and I hope you have a better rest of your day. And try to keep a positive attitude, be a good ally for our friends of color, especially our black friends who are going through it right now, given the state of the world. Um, Sometimes this world sucks. What we have to do is try to help each other, try to be the best allies we can, and as Mr. Rogers says, when anything bad is happening, look for the helpers because they're there, and try to be a better person. Be the best person you can be, and tomorrow will be better. Thank you for watching, and I hope you have a better rest of your day. Bye-bye.